Good morning, Guyanese, members of the media, all persons interested in the development of Guyana. As our presidential candidate stated, I'm here to discuss women's issues in Guyana. Change Guyana is focused on empowering women to be stronger in the future. And speaking as a woman on women's issues, this has nothing to do with feminism. This has to do with equal opportunities and equal protection. This is a basic human rights entitlement. I'm going to highlight some issues affecting women in this Change Guyana plans to do to eliminate those problems. So the first issue I'm going to deal with is gender inequality. Change Guyana recognizes that a country cannot effectively move forward if women's rights are stagnated. Gender equality is a fundamental right, and Change Guyana plans to champion women's rights by giving women more representation in political and economic policy-making processes. Promoting women's rights includes enacting and in some cases enforcing legal provisions that we already have to ensure that women receive equal pay, are promoted just as frequently as their male counterparts, and are given the same retirement packages. It means that discrimination will not be tolerated in the public or in the private sectors. An issue plaguing our country and much of the world is a lack of respect for women in the workplace. For certain jobs, women are preferred or bypassed because in many cases they prefer a man for the job. Even though women in those cases may be equally competent or can do the job better. For example, in labor-intensive fields such as construction or working with machines, women are generally bypassed. As well as in the health sector, sometimes a female doctor is there and people will assume automatically that she's a nurse as opposed to being the doctor. Another integral component of equality in the workplace would be providing mandatory daycare services. Most of the time, taking care of the children is left to be the responsibility of the mother. And when a man, and this is just, I'm not categorically stating that this is always the case, but generally when a man assists a woman in the home, he's praised for helping his partner. The inverse is never true. A woman, it's as if it's always her job. She's expected to be the caregiver. Naturally, in many instances, women are forced to stay home because the cost of daycare is prohibitive. By implementing mandatory daycare services or providing subsidies for working women, working mothers especially, a more stable economy can be created, and Change Guyana will ensure that this is done. Now, it's proposed that resources will be allocated for the strong enforcement of legislation because we already have, for the most part, legislation that deals with these issues. But what is lacking is that there hasn't been enforcement of the provisions. So we will be allocating resources to target discrimination against women. Change Guyana will push for legislation that specifically targets and prohibits disparities in payment between men and women performing the same duties, ensure that women make up a designated percentage of the workforce, and guarantee representation of women in boardrooms and other executive posts. Again, more resources will be allocated by our government should we become, not when we are, I like that, when we are voted in, to deal with this discrimination and sexism until it is stamped out completely. I also propose to have, and the party proposes to have, a watchdog group that will be established within the Ministry of Labor And this group will directly report to the Office of the President on a monthly basis until this issue is completely eradicated. And also to implement mandatory workplace policies and requiring workshops on workplace etiquette on a regular basis. Another big issue to deal with is sexual harassment and abuse. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but statistically, 1 in every 3 women will experience some form of sexual harassment or abuse in her lifetime. And this is regardless of age or background. And this is taken from the UNDP database, and that is as of this year, 2020. Almost every day, if you open the newspapers, you see that, or you hear on other forms of media that there are stories of domestic violence often meted out against women by their partners. Less frequent is there highlighted that domestic violence can also be at the hands of other family members. Now, while there are already laws in place to target violence against women, oftentimes, and this has been the case with the last government, this government and the previous government, they are not enforced, or there's reluctance on the part of the police to prosecute. Guyana has made significant strides, and I'm talking in terms of legislation, in countering this issue, and the courts have been readily accessible, but the problem is that it may not be widely known to many women that they have these rights. So Change Guyana promotes equality and proposes to allocate more funding for educating women on these rights, giving them better access to the courts and job placements where necessary. The Change Guyana government will work side by side with the police force by providing the necessary resources and specialized training to ensure that crimes against women are prosecuted and that there are successful outcomes. The Change Guyana government will also apportion resources to provide safe housing and/or alternative accommodation for domestic violence victims and their children. And there will be stronger governmental collaboration with NGOs and community groups, and funding will be provided and a report system put in place to ensure that the resources are being effectively utilized. And finally, more resources will be budgeted for counseling services to all those who are in need. Another issue would be sexual harassment on the streets and public places, and this is actually something I polled from my pool of friends and other women that I know. This is a big issue to them in Guyana. Almost every Guyanese woman has been subjected to catcalling and harassment on the streets and in public places by men. More often than not, absolutely nothing is done or is put in place to restrict or prevent this distasteful behavior. It seems as though it's an accepted practice and women are just left to be uncomfortable. There are even instances where women are grabbed or cornered by men, and as such, a simple thing like taking a walk causes much unwarranted unease. Change Guyana is dedicated to promoting a non-abusive and safe environment for women. Again, a portion of the budget will be directly utilized to fund training of the police as well as to prosecute offenders to the full extent of the law. Change Guyana will also budget for grassroots education on diversity in schools and on a national level aimed at disparaging the gross and systemic breakdown of the rule of law as it relates to women's issues, thereby promoting a culture of decency. We also will be looking at subsidizing the income of single-parent mothers. Many households have a single-parent mother as the head of the home. These women have the task of being both the financial providers and the caregivers for their children. It is difficult to balance the household on one source of income, and it is equally hard to carry a second job when attention has to be given to the children of the home. To alleviate the tremendous burden placed on single mothers, Change Guyana proposes to make available resources to, one, subsidize the living expenses for these women, similar to, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, similar to the baby bonus that other countries receive. to ensure job placement and training where necessary, and reduction of taxes. And on that note, taxation is another issue facing women in Guyana. The high taxes in Guyana directly affect all households, but specifically challenges low to middle class families. A significant portion of what a person makes goes to taxes, and this huge tax imposition robs the household of its earnings. But the bigger issue is that monies paid as taxes are often squandered by the government. Since women are generally at the lower spectrum of the workforce, overtaxation affects them in particular because severe stress is put on them to meet household needs. The high taxation policy set in place by both the PPP and APNU governments, along with their marked failure to provide jobs or to create jobs where needed, has also impacted the home in a negative manner by creating discomfort and by adding to the unrest that oftentimes leads to domestic disputes. And finally, I get to women in politics. In politics, women have been disenfranchised, especially in this country, and enough emphasis has not been placed on women's issues. There has been inadequate inclusion of women in policy making and decisions that have direct influence on the growth of the country. Change Guyana will champion the rights of women because women are valued members of society and have a meaningful role to play. The women in this party, or in Change Guyana, will not hold token positions. And as a woman and as a human being, I urge you to vote for Change Guyana. A vote for Change Guyana is a vote for equality. Thank you.